We're nearly a month into Canada's longest election campaign in modern history, and there have already been dozens of promises made to court voters. The Conservatives lead the way with 22 pledges to date, followed by the Liberals with 12, the NDP with 11. The Green Party has made 5 campaign promises, and the Bloc Québécois hasn't announced anything as yet. Joining me now from Victoria to break down some of these promises, political consultant Michael Geoghegan. Nice to have you with us, sir.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into the actual promises, are you seeing, Michael, a common thread with regards to platform and the parties?
Well, I think what's going on is, first of all, every one of the platforms, in some senses, play to their strengths. And in other instances, we've seen items in the platforms where actually are a bit of a surprise and a bit counterintuitive in terms of what people generally expect from the different parties.
All right, so let's look at the Conservatives first. 22 promises made. We've got a board for that. I want to highlight a couple of them. The Conservatives have vowed to give a tax break on memberships to the Legion, Kiwanis, Lions clubs. They've also said they'll harmonize child car seat regulations with the U.S. What do you see here? These are kind of niche promises. Who are they going for?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. First of all, there's a trend now for political parties to make promises that are essentially small enough that they're credible, so that the days of grand sweeping promises tend to be over. You think about LBJ down in the United States, the war on poverty. Those days of grand sweeping gestures seem to be over, and it's down to more mundane and particular promises that the public goes, well, yeah, it's likely that they would actually implement it if they were elected or re-elected.
To the NDP now, 11 promises there, including a $40 million tax break for some businesses and a pledge to spend some $250 million to recruit new police officers. What kind of message, Michael, are they trying to send with these promises?
Well, certainly with regards to spending $250 million, I think it's over a period of 10 years to recruit 2,500 new police officers. They were trying to inoculate themselves against against the Conservatives saying that they were weak on crime, because as you know, the Conservatives have pledged things like life means life, and they're going to change it so that if you get a life sentence, you are in jail for the rest of your life. So this is the NDP's way of saying, you know what, we're tough on crime. In fact, we're willing to put a lot more money into police recruitment. Other people have said, wait a sec, you along with the Liberals and the Greens have talked about decriminalizing marijuana. Is that not going to free up a substantial amount of police resources? So again, there's a lot of back and forth in terms of these policies between the parties. To
the Liberals now, who have pinpointed the veterans and basically say they want to return to lifelong benefits for the vets. They are willing to spend some $300 million to do that, also promising lower income tax rates for middle income families. How are they positioning themselves? Which voters are they pinpointing?
Well, in this particular case, first of all, they're going after those veterans who feel that they have been treated somewhat shabbily by the Conservative government, and they want to say to those veterans, look, we've been listening, we think that you haven't been treated fairly, and and here's a specific promise in terms of how we'll make things better. With regards to Liberals and the tax pledge, again, this is them positioning and saying, we know that the middle class has been hurting in North America, and this is something specific that we would do to help the middle class out.
And finally, Elizabeth May and the Greens trying to resonate with certain voters with what they want, a national housing strategy, ban tankers on the BC coast and provide more help for veterans. What do you think?
Well, first of all, with regards to the housing strategy, this is also something that Prime Minister Harper touched on by looking at some measures in terms of RSP withdrawals. The fact that housing is becoming increasingly unaffordable, particularly in markets like Toronto, Vancouver, and Victoria. The Green Party has said, look, let's go to a strategy that was widely used in the 1970s, co-op housing, and so that way young people have a shot of having the kind of housing where they can actually start families, and that's going to be a big demographic problem for the future of this country.
Michael Geoghegan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.